This is too simple. It's about feeding your database every day and then consistently, persistently marketing to it from that day forward, right? So that's why I'm giving you this first. This is the one thing that's so simple to do. I will make it so simple for you to feed your database that you guys will be able to do it into like you know you want to do it. So let me ask you, just to make sure I'm covering the right material, who does not like the condition of their database? They know they need to do something better. They know they need to stay in touch with people better. Raise your hand if your database is not where you want it to be. Okay, good. Otherwise, we'd be done at noon because I just skipped to the next presentation. Now, here's the reality, guys. It's that way for every person. And I got to set you up for a couple of things the way we're going to learn today. You all have been taught to go get the next piece of business. Our industry teaches us to go get the next piece of business, go get the next piece of business, go get the next piece of business, right? So I want to share some numbers with you. And again, here's my precautionary disclaimer before I get into teaching. The numbers I'm about to show you are going to make some of you really ill. I should have grabbed all those like little bags off the airplane right here and gave them to everybody this day. Okay, you got them? Trash can close by. These numbers are going to make you sick in a good way, bad way, okay? Because there's so much business that we're all missing out on by not doing what I'm going to share with you today, okay? So where these numbers come from is how often does the average person move, right? What do you guys think that number is?
5 to 7 years.
5 years, 7 years, right? And we were talking earlier this morning, don't you even feel like, how many people think it's more like 10 years? Like people have been staying in their house just a little longer, right? Okay, so if we use 5-year numbers and if we use 7-year numbers, just because I know it's like, I'm already talking math, okay? So I know I don't want to lose you guys on the math here. If it's every 10 years that they're staying, then you know that the numbers that we're talking about are bigger when it's 5 to 7 years. It means they're moving more often. So I think I based a lot of this on the 10-year number. But let's just look at 100 people. How many of you have probably 100 people in your database at least? Okay, great. And you'll raise your hand again in a minute. But if they move every 7 years, and I did use a calculator to run the 7 years, the number will change a little bit on the 10-year, but I can tell you that number real easy. If the average person, if you have 100 people and the average person moves every 10 years, how many of those 100 people are moving this year? 10, right? So that's an easy one to figure out. Out of 100 people, if everybody's moving every 7 years, it's 15 people of those 100 people are moving this year, right? Let me put that into perspective for you 1 second. How many of you have been to Bold? You guys got Bold coming pretty soon?
Yeah, next week.
You guys put this stuff in place before Bold gets here, you won't do 17 transactions. You'll do 30 or 40 transactions from your 7 weeks of Bold over the next 12 months, okay? You'll still do your 17 during Bold. If you actually did call and make 20 contacts a day, every day for 7 weeks, you will do 17 deals. But I already know what happens. See, I'm a coach. I've been a coach long enough that I ask a lot of questions and I track everything. I track everything from hundreds of top agents. So what I'm sharing with you is my experience as a coach where the holes and the gaps are. You guys want to know what's wrong with it? How many of you get 17 deals every time you take Bold? How many of you are thinking, what they keep saying, we do an average of 17 and a half deals when we take Bold, but it's not happening. You guys want to know why? I know why. You know, the reason why is you start the first week of Bold, and you do call 20 people the first day of Bold, don't you? That first week, you get a couple of days where you actually call 20 people in one day. And then your list runs out, doesn't it? Week 2 of Bold, you got to have another list of 100 people to call to get 20 contacts in every day. Maybe possible for some. So 2 FISBO list, they give you the list, right? So you start calling through the list. But on week 3, do you still have another list of 100 people to call, new people to call 20 people a day every day for 5 days that week? You guys follow me on this? By week 4, do you have another list of 100 people to call? So the problem is you run out of people to call, right? And here's what I know about everyone in this room. Because if you're all in Bold, and I walked in around the table and I said, Hey Damian, I've already gone through your database. Here's 20 people out of your database that know you and you know them, and I called them and told them you'd be calling them today. All right, will you call them today?
Sure.
Okay, here's 20 people out of your database. I actually called ahead and said, hey, you were going to be calling today, so these 20 people are expecting you to call today, right? Do the same thing with you. How many of you make your 20 calls that day? So now let's fast forward to week 3. I've been doing this every day that you've been in Bold, because you're supposed to make 20 contacts a day, right? In Bold, which is 100 contacts a week, which is 700 contacts while you go through Bold, right? How many people are moving? If you made 700 contacts in Bold, going back to our quick math, and they're moving every 10 years, how many of those people are moving this year? 70. If you guys made 700 contacts during Bold and you stayed in touch with them, you will do 70 transactions in the next 12 months, not 30. 70. But here's the cool part. You'll do 70 next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that, from one 7-week session of Bold, if you did 20 contacts a day, every day, 700 people while you're in Bold. Follow me? So I'm going through the list. I'm giving you 20. 3 weeks down the road, I show up in the room again. Hey, here's 20 more people out of your database that I've already called. They are expecting a call. I've been doing this every day for 3 weeks. You guys will call every one of those 20 people if you know I called them and told them that you'd be calling, right? That's easy to do. Nobody's handing us the list of 20 people that are waiting for our call. So what do we do in week 3 of Bold? We spend 2 hours figuring out who to call, and we call 3 people, 3 new FISBOs that we found that doesn't look like anybody we've talked to before. If you just call the same 100 people all 7 weeks, you guys will close 20 to 30 deals in the next 12 months. You don't even have to call 100 new people, because we're taught to go get the next piece of business, not stay in touch with everybody we already followed up. So let me put that in perspective one more way. First week of Bold, I make 100 contacts, right? How many appointments usually get set up in the first week of Bold? Like they ring the bell and they turn in their numbers. What's the average in a week that people make an appointment? 8 or 9? You're good. How many people think it's 2 or 3? It's about 2 or 3 is what I've seen.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. A team, yeah, exactly. So it's about 2 or 3 appointments for every 100 contacts is what you see come out of Bold, right? I'm just using that as an example because it really puts into perspective these numbers, right? 10 people are moving this year. So I got 2 people to agree to meet with me out of my first 100 people I contacted in my first week of Bold, which means 98 of those 100 people will never hear from me again. Because next week I'm going to call another 100 people and another 100 people looking for the 2 that are moving right now. How many people did we say are moving out of the 100 if it's every 10 years? 10. So there's 98 people out of my first week of Bold that are absolutely going to buy a house in the next 10 years. Right? See, if I do that 100 every week, and I do 700 people, there's 70 people moving every year for the next 10 years out of my 7 weeks in Bold. Honestly, that's a real number. Actually, it's probably even a little more than that. It's probably more like 110, 120 people if they're moving every 7 years. It's a bigger number. So there's 70 people moving every year for the next 10 years. But you got to call the same 700 people all the time. And again, I'm just setting this up for you so you have this perspective of how to really take all this information today, because it's going to come at you fast. It really is like, I went overboard. I got to give you guys another precautionary disclaimer. You're not going to master anything today, okay? I've already figured that out. As a trainer, there's no 30-minute, 45-minute webinar or an all-day training class. I just did business planning clinic in Oklahoma. You're not going to master everything I'm going to cover in one day. So let's just get your vision and your picture so big so you know what the next 1 or 2 things are that you need to focus on to get started, to move towards that. So I'm going to give you the biggest vision you can possibly imagine today, knowing you won't have time to master any of it. So I'm going to give you so much information, your brain's going to hurt by lunch. And I'm not even really going to go easy on you after lunch too. I was going to, and then I just kept adding to it today. Just more years kept spilling in. So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of information today. So much information your brain's going to hurt. All I want you to do is star or highlight 3 things out of today that really hit you. okay? And those are the things that you're gonna now take out of this classroom and figure out, where do I go figure out how to do these 3 things? Because that's the piece I can't, we won't be able to do it. Even if I just covered 3 things today, you wouldn't master it, okay? So that's why I give you a ton of information. So anyway, back to the numbers of the 70 people for the next 10 years. Just think if you did that every year. What if you took Bold the next year and you added another 700 people? Well, year 2 of doing Bold, you're not going to do 70 transactions that year. How many are you going to do? Who's my mathematicians? You're going to do 140 transactions your second year of Bold. And then you take Bold one more time, year 3. Why do they tell us to keep taking it? Because we're not doing it the first time? No. That's why we're all taking it over and over again, because we're hoping our 2 deals will turn into 4, right? But you could do 140 the second year, and what the third year? 210 transactions a year, just from 7 weeks once a year. Does this make you sick? Okay, so let's look at the numbers. If 15 people are moving every 7 years, 15 people over 12 months is 1 a month. That's 1 sale a month, every month, from 100 people. Not going out to find somebody new. It's just staying in touch with 100 people that already know you, who you already know them. Over and over and over again. Oh, and here's the other thing I want to tell you. With these numbers, those 100 people, if 15 of them are moving this year, and you call the 100 people the first week of Bold, only 1 or 2, if it's 1 a month, only 1 or 2 of them know they're moving in the next month or 2, right? So there's 13 more people that are moving in the next 12 months, but they don't know they're moving in the next 12 months for about another month or 2. And only 2 or 3 of them will know they're moving in the next month or 2. So I have to call 6 months from now to figure out who the middle of that pack is who now knows they're moving. You guys following this? That's why you only get 1 or 2 deals for every 100 people, because that's all who knows they're moving. The 70 people out of 700, you'd have to call all 700 basically every single month to figure out which 8 or 9 are moving this month and which 8 or 9 are moving next month. That's 16 transactions in 2 months from 700 people. How many of you just got a little more excited about Bold? You might actually get 3 or 4 weeks of 100 contacts in before the 7 weeks ends. Or how many are you going to hit all 7 weeks and get the 100 pin every week? Remember when you do 100 contacts every week, you get them all done 100%, you get the 100 pin every week. An agent that did that, when I went through Bold, it's the first time I've ever seen somebody get the pin every single week. She probably did 50 transactions that year. Yeah, from nothing. What's that?
We have an agent in here who did 500 in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then Bruce did 100.
Yeah.
Brucey.
Yeah, get that pin every week, I'm telling you. So, again, I can make it easy. If you want to hire me, I'm really expensive to come in bringing that list of 20 every day, but you'll make your money back. Right? Okay, so that's 1 per month. If you have 1,000 people in your database, so somebody's been in business for a little while, there's a lot of 1,000-person databases out there. 1,000 people moving every 7 years is 142 people are moving this year, and another 142 next year, the year after, the year after, the year after, for the next 10 years, right? So if I got 1,000 people, that's 12 transactions a month. Do you know how many agents have a database of 1,000 people a month that aren't doing 12 transactions a month? But 12 people are moving every month. Didn't we just say, I mean, unless NAR's lying to us, right? I actually had a coaching client challenge me on this. He's like, well, even every 10 years. Okay, so I just said, so you're telling me that everybody in your marketplace stays in their house for 20 years. How many of you call BS on that? Yeah. People are not staying in their house 20 years. You have a couple or 2 that's been in their house for 40 years or 30 years, but the average is not 20 years. So these numbers are not fake numbers. You guys all agree these are real? Okay, so everything you hear for the rest of this first part of the day, I want you to remember, these numbers are real. There are 12 people moving every single month if you have 1,000 people in your database, which means if you have 2,000, how many people are moving? 24. 24. Every month. 24 transactions a month every month, okay? So 100 people moving every 5 years, it's still 1.5 per month because they're moving more often. I just broke it down by the thing. 1,000 people, 200 people moving every month, it's 16 deals. And then there's the easy math. If they're even moving every 10 years, there's 8 deals if you have 1,000 people in your database, okay? So out of 5,000 people, let's just say that you could put 1,000 people in your database. How many people have 1,000 or more people in their database? I'm not going to ask how many transactions you're doing, so raise your hand safely. Right? No, you guys don't have 1,000 people in your database? Okay. So, how many people, just shout out some numbers of what you have in your database.
240.
240.
600.
260. 250. Okay. So, if you just met, now we're not talking bold, we're talking real, every day. Do you guys think you talk to 5 human beings a day? Yeah? Okay, so you talk to 5 human beings today, but what have you been taught to do in real estate?
Ask.
To go look for the next deal, right? You're asking for the next deal. Are you thinking about buying or selling real estate? No. Who do you know is? And what do they say all the time? Can't think of anybody. And we're like, all right, I'm so glad I learned that script. You know, I'm about closed deals and money showing up in my account, right? So if you guys remind me, this is your bonus because it's not in the presentation. Remind me at lunch to give you the bonus script on how to get more referrals from that script. There's 3 little steps you have to add to it, and you'll get 25% more referrals off of, hey, are you thinking about buying or selling real estate? No. Do you know anybody else who is? I don't. That's where we start. Okay, well, if you think of somebody, here's my card, give me a call, right? And how many times do they call you back? Never. I'm going to show you how to turn that into real money, so don't let me forget that at lunch, okay? So if you bump into 5 human beings a day, and you did that 5 days a week, I know most realtors work 7 days, but let's just say you actually took your 2 guilt-free days off a week, right? You actually did that. So if you bump into 5 human beings a day and talk to 5 human beings, and you do that 5 days a week, and you did that for this whole year of 2016, you know how many people you would have in your database if you just put the human beings in your database? 5 people a day, 5 days a week is 100 a week, right? Is that right? No, I'm 25 a week. It's 100 a month, which means it's how many? 1,200 people in your database in 2016. Now, here's where I got to do a check-in point. Who am I talking about? People doing the next deal, or am I just talking about people?
People.
How many of those 1,200 people are moving this year? 120. So now I challenge everyone in here. This is where I want to push you outside the limit, because when you start looking at these numbers and we say they're real, why don't we have 1,200 people in our database? If you've been in business for 10 years, you should be at 12,000 people in your database. You guys following me? I mean, we're just not putting people in our database. We're only putting people that we think might be buying or selling real estate right now. And that, we got to call this. So we keep getting all these new people to call. We get the 2 or 3 people, put those 2 or 3 people in our database, and the other 98 people per 100, we don't do anything with them. Guess what? They move. You ever do your like calendar mailings? I wish I had the picture on here. I couldn't find it last night. I've got a picture of our mailboxes at our office with bundles of mail, rubber banded together, and it's got the yellow stickers of death. You guys get the yellow stickers of death in January? Those people, so here's what Brad Korn does. I get that and go, wow, I thought I was closing 99% of every deal I ever did. How did these people move and me not know it? How did they move and not call me first? That was lost business every time I got those stacks of yellow stickers of death. So that became my mission, is to figure this puzzle out. And that's where the 8x8 touch plug is. So watch this math. If you did 1,000 people a year, let's just say you take 2 months off, or you just mess this up and you really don't do 5 people a day. You screwed it up for 2 months worth over the year, right? And you added 1,000 people a year for the next 5 years. Let me ask you guys this, just kind of a check-in point. How many of you, this is your last year in real estate? You are getting out. Okay, good, because I'd have to pull you aside. We have to have a little crash course on all this. You don't have a lot of time, right? How many of you might be in business in 5 years from now? For real. Okay, how about 10 years from now? Okay, so over the next 5 years, if you added 1,000 people, to your database, which we know 500 of them are moving every year. In 5 years, you could have 500 to 714 transactions a year just by putting 5 people a day in your database. Does that make sense? How many are feeling a little queasy? It's like, are you telling me seriously 5 people a day is all I had to be doing this whole time? Yes, they're all moving, right? So look at this, 5,000 people, if they're moving every 10 years, is 41 transactions a month. In 5 years, you can do 40 transactions a month, and you never have to call a FSBO or an expired or go talk to strangers or use the, are you thinking about buying or selling script? Because what we're talking about here is connections. These are people you talk to multiple times throughout the year, that your conversations are just like, hey, how are the kids doing? What's going on? You guys want something more fun? What I'm going to share with you today, you don't even have to talk about real estate, okay? Do you call up your best friend and go, hey, this is Dave, does he call me and go, hey, this is Damian over at Keller Williams? Yeah, Damian, I know you're at Keller Williams. You've been there for the last 8 years, right? Or however long it's been, right? You don't call your people and use that script. That script is taught for who? The next person that's buying or selling, because I'm calling strangers and burning through the list, and I've got to find out who's buying or selling. That's why that script, you don't need that. When you call people you know, it's like, hey, it's Brad. What's up, Brad? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called. I meant to call you last week. My sister's getting married. She's moving. Oh, she is? Great. Well, that's why I called you today. Wasn't. The system just said, call her. You haven't talked to her in a month, right? How many people wake up every day, think about your whole database. You think they jump out of bed and go, all right, let's get Damian some business today. Where can I go find him some real estate? We are the last person they think of when they get out of bed, right? So that's why multiple contacts will get you more business. All right, this gets a little sicker. Okay, so that 5,000 people, if they're moving every 5 years, is 60 closings per month. 714 closings a year in 5 years. If you added 5 a day, every day, 4 weeks, 12 months, that's 1,200 contacts a year. If you added 1,200 people for the next 5 years, that's 6,000 people in your database, which will equal 857 people moving every year. Okay, so now I get to get a little more real. What if you just got this half right? Right? Because I'm kind of the half right or the quarter right guy. I have to do it wrong 75% of the time before I figure out the right way to do it. That's 420 something deals a year. If you get it 25% right, that's 200 deals a year. Every year for the next 10 years. It goes on and on and on. How many of you are feeling like, how many of you are getting excited about your database now? Are we in the